The drama surrounding Lexie Hull's WNBA journey never looked like a headline until it suddenly was. It wasn't the kind of arc that explodes on a single night and announces itself with a viral clip. It was something slower, grittier, built on the detail work that doesn't trend. Empty gyms, breathless sprints at the end of practice, the quiet ache of holding yourself to a standard when the box score refuses to love you back. For 2 seasons in Indiana, Hull lived in the margins. Spot, minutes, frozen rhythms, and a shot that always felt like it had to be perfect because there might only be 1 or 2 of them. She knew the work was real, but the league is ruthless about outcomes. And then, without fanfare, a door opened. The rookie with the magnetic pull stepped into the building, and everything, spacing, tempo, belief, shifted a quarter turn. This is the story of how a star didn't just put up numbers, she altered gravity, and how a player like Hull grabbed hold of that drift and turned it into a career that finally matched her hunger. When Caitlin Clark arrived, Indiana's offense stopped, feeling like a car stuck in second gear. You could see it in the way defenders shaded their bodies, leaning toward Clark as if tugged by a wire, leaving seams where there hadn't been seams for years. She drew 2 to the ball just by crossing half court, then punished that attention with an unselfishness that made cutting feel like an invitation instead of a chore. For Hull, who had been carving out space in a phone booth, that difference felt like oxygen. It wasn't just that she was open more often, it was that her movement carried purpose again. She wasn't cutting to fill a diagram. She was cutting with the expectation that a play might explode open at her feet. Because Clark saw it first, saw it early, and delivered with the kind of timing that makes you feel trusted. That's the intangible shift you can't quantify in a single metric when a role player starts moving like a co-author instead of a spectator. But the miracle of Clark's game wasn't only in the passes that connected, it was in the psychology that followed the ones that didn't. In a league where misses burn holes in your confidence because opportunities are scarce, Clark refused to let a teammate's miss become a narrative. Hull talks about it like a lifeline. Miss 1, hear a voice in your ear that says, "You've got the next." It's simple, but the delivery matters. Coming from a player who had the ball in her hands, who could call her own number every time, and still chose to invest in her teammates' rhythm, the encouragement felt like permission to stay aggressive. That's what leadership is at its best. Not a speech, but 1,000 subtle choices that signal we're building something here, and you're part of it. When that message lives in the best player's habits, it infects the team. Practices changed first, not in the dramatic Hollywood way, but in that granular way coaches dream about and players sometimes dread. Broken sets didn't get waved off anymore. They got rewound and corrected. Scrimmages sharpened into skirmishes. There's a different energy when the star treats the Tuesday grind with the same heat as a 4th quarter on national TV. It pulls the standard up by the roots. The Fever had spent seasons searching for an identity. Now the identity was competing like hell at everything, from shell drills to late game execution. Coaches started posting the receipts, shooting percentages after practice, tallied from every drill and every scrimmage touch. For some players, it felt like a spotlight they hadn't asked for. For Hull, it felt like confirmation that the lonely reps were turning into something measurable. The numbers challenged her, but they also told the truth in a new language. You're getting better, keep going. The Olympic break became a crucible. A month without games can either make a team invisible or make it inevitable, depending on how you use it. Indiana chose the second path. With no cameras, no adrenaline of game night, the Fever chose to build habits that hold when the lights come back on. Hull locked in on the pieces of her game that bend with reps, the angle of a cut, the timing on a 45 backdoor when Clark turned her head to survey the weak side, the hitch in her jumper that sometimes appeared when she felt the burden of scarcity. You could feel her recalibrating from "don't miss this one" to "this is my shot." That shift matters. When touches are rare, every attempt can feel like a referendum on your worth. When the offense flows and your work has stacked up, shots become outcomes, not auditions. As the season resumed and the games returned to full throttle, the Fever started to look like a team with a thesis. Clark's gravity bent the floor, Kelsey Mitchell's pace knifed through gaps, Aaliyah Boston settled possessions with an anchor's patience, and players like Hull began to live in the space between them, making quick, decisive reads, sprinting into windows, and shooting without apology. What used to be hopeful ball movement became purposeful creation. There is a sound a crowd makes when an offense hums. It builds before the ball goes through the net. A gasp that recognizes the logic of the possession. Indiana started generating that sound in buildings they didn't own. Road arenas turned. into near-home atmospheres because the story had outgrown the schedule. People wanted to see what this looked like in person. For Hull, the difference registered both on the court and in the life that surrounds the court. Fame in the WNBA is a strange kind of instant visibility. One day you're fetching almond milk at the grocery store without a glance. The next day, a stranger taps your shoulder to say, "Go Fever," and you realize the thing you've given your life to is finally giving something back. It's thrilling until it isn't, until the same attention that cheers your breakout also inventories your mistakes in the comments, until the conversation around your jersey number belongs to everyone else. Hull learned what veterans already know. The noise is a wave, and you need a board to ride it. For her, that board was the locker room. The Fever constructed a culture that didn't pretend the noise wasn't there, but refused to be governed by it. Teammates turned accountability into a buffer. Coaches turned film into a compass. They made the season about the work and the joy of the work, not the discourse that feeds on it. That joy showed up in the strangest little rituals. The pre-game outfit swaps with Erica Wheeler started as a joke. Two players with opposite styles, daring each other to try on a personality for an hour. But like most team quirks, it grew into something that mattered. It reminded them that this was supposed to be fun, that they were human beings playing a game, not avatars being judged by a billion angles in slow motion. It lightened the shoulders before the tip. And then somehow those loosened shoulders shot better, moved better, trusted faster. Chemistry is not a myth. It's 100 tiny choices to like each other and to let that liking make you brave.